The movie opens in the distant future, in a garage where we can see different kind of mechanical tools and pictures of two couples. We then meet Gray Trace as he is working on a 1977 Pontiac Firebird Trans Am car. After he finishes working on the engine, Gray gets in the car and starts the engine. He gets happy to see the car working well. Gray then gets out to welcome his wife Asha. As she returns from work, Asha works for a tech company called Cobalt. They get into their home where almost everything is controlled by technology. Asha tells Gray that staying all day in home and fixing a car isn't much of a living. He tells her that he must deliver the car to someone and that he needs her to drive him back home with her car. She first hesitates, but Gray tells her that she must see the man's home. Gray takes Asha to a secret location to meet his client Aron Keen. Asha recognizes Aron as he is the owner of a successful computer company and tells him that she is a big fan of him. She tells him that she also works for a technological company and that in the future her company will produce most important technologies as Aron's company. But he awkwardly tells her that they will never compete with his company. He tells them to follow him as he wants to show them something. Aron shows Gray and Asha a new highly advanced computer chip called STEM that could prove revolutionary in the field of science and medicine. On their way home, Gray and Asha try to get intimate since their car drives itself. As they are getting into it, Gray notices that the car is actually going in the wrong direction. The car takes a detour through Gray's old neighborhood as it appears that it has been hacked. Gray and Asha tries to stop the car, but instead the car starts to go very fast. Gray quickly pushes Asha back and puts her belts as the car crashes near a junkyard, leaving the couple injured. 4 people arrives at the scene wearing bandit masks, and they forcefully pull both of them out of the car as a police drone reports the situation. One of the men, Fisk, takes off his mask and confronts Asha. Gray tries to involve, but the other goons beats him down. Fisk tells Asha that people like her looks down on men like him who is uneducated before shooting her in the chest. Gray tearfully watches as she is taking her last breath. Then Fisk shoots Gray in the spine with some kind of device, leaving him paralyzed. The goons leave them as Gray tries to talk to Asha to stay with him, but she slowly dies in front of his eyes. Gray is left a quadriplegic. He spends a long time at the hospital in a state of coma. 3 months later, Gray has woken up from coma and he has returned home. A woman tells him that the house has been adjusted for him and that they also have installed a voice control robotic hands that will help him make his meals. Gray is very much broken by the loss of his wife. His mother Pamela tries to help him adjust. Gray also meets Detective Cortez, who is working on the case against the goons that hurt him and killed Asha. The authorities are working off surveillance footage from drones that were flying overhead during the murder, but they have no leads as to who the criminals are. Gray then returns home and tries to commit suicide by making the robot hands inject him with medicine multiple times. After a couple injections, Gray passes out. Gray then wakes up in the hospital and are visited by Aron, who offers him a chance to walk again if Gray allows him to put STEM in his back. Gray doesn't like the idea until Aron suggests that Asha would have wanted him to walk again. Gray goes through with the procedure, even signing a non-disclosure agreement to ensure that he will not tell anybody about STEM. Sure enough, he regains motor functions and is able to walk again. He returns home without Pamela knowing about the breakthrough. Soon, Gray starts to hear a voice speaking to him. It turns out to be STEM. Gray freaks out at first until STEM proves to be calm and wanting to offer assistance. STEM pulls up the drone footage from the murder, which shows Gray more focused images on the criminals. Gray discovers that Fisk shot Asha with a gun implanted in his hand. Gray tries to call Cortez, but STEM reminds him that the footage that he has seen through STEM will not be sufficient evidence to get the goons. STEM locates the address of one of the goons, Cirque, by identifying a tattoo on his wrist. Gray finds Cirque's house and breaks in. STEM tells Gray to look through the messages on Cirque's computer table, with multiple references to a bar from Gray's old neighborhood called Old Dog. Cirque then returns home and quickly finds Gray. He attacks Gray and recognizes him. He asks Gray how he found him. Gray tells him that he killed his wife and tries to fight back, but Cirque quickly overpowers him and tries to strangle him to death. Gray asks STEM to help him and STEM tells him that he needs to grant him permission to act independently. Gray allows STEM permission to take full control. Gray is able to dodge Cirque's attacks and hit him back with precision. Cirque grabs a knife and tries to stab Gray, but Gray takes the knife off of his hand and stabs him with it. Cirque attempts to stab Gray again, but STEM quickly disarms him and slices his head from the mouth to his ears, killing him. Gray vomits after realizing he just killed a man. STEM then helps Gray clean up the crime scene to remove any evidence of him being there. Aron meets with Gray after monitoring STEM's activity. He knows that Gray killed Cirque, but Gray tells him that he never mentioned that STEM could talk to him. Aron orders Gray not to pursue anyone else. Cortez reviews more drone footage after Cirque's body is inspected at the morgue. She sees Gray rolling by in his wheelchair. She pays him a visit to ask questions about what he was doing there, and Gray going back in the wheelchair makes up a story despite knowing he can use being crippled as an alibi. Gray then asks Stem what he should do next, and Stem tells him that a bar called Old Bones is the next place they should investigate. But Stem can't get any online information about the place and that they have to go in person. Gray pays a visit to Old Dog in his wheelchair. Gray then orders a drink. He asks one of the men sitting to help him drink. After he finishes, Gray asks the whole bar if anybody associated with his wife's murder would come forward. One man, Talon, steps up and admits he was there. Talon initially decides to walk away, but when Gray mentions that he is the one who killed his friend Cirque, Talon cannot stand it anymore. He wheels Gray to a back room where he and a couple other goons try to harm Gray. They throw him off of his wheelchair and Stem tells Gray that he is temporarily blocking his pain receptors. Talon then starts to stab Gray with a knife to know if he is faking his wheelchair, and becomes surprised that Gray is not feeling anything. Gray then asks him that if he was there the night his wife was murdered, but Talon is too busy testing his knife experiment on Gray. Gray tells him that he just wants to hear him admit he was there. Talon says he was there and Gray quickly gives Stem permission to take over. Stem then starts to beat the thugs one by one, until he and Talon were left. He pins Talon down and begins to torture him with a knife until he gives up Fisk's name. Stem then tells Gray to write down the number he tells him and guides him to an apartment building. Iran then discovers that Stem is getting out of his control and attempts to shut him down. Gray then starts to lose control of his body and Stem then warns Gray that Iran is attempting to manually shut him down, which would render Gray immobile again. He gives Gray an address to find a hacker named Jamie who can reboot him. Gray then goes to take the elevator, and Stem tells him that there isn't much time left and that he should take the stairs. After Gray flees, Fisk shows up to the bar hours later and finds Talon's body. He uses memory footage from a camera in Talon's eye to see Gray repeating the address Stem gave him. Fisk then presses the bartender for letting Talon die. The bartender pulls out a gun, but Fisk simply sneezes and sends out little microbots that go up the bartender's nose and slowly destroy him internally. Gray finds the hacker's apartment as he starts to lose motor function. Jamie uses a code that Stem told Gray to write on his arm and manages to reboot him. However, she sees Fisk and his buddy Jeffries show up on the security cams, so Jamie and her hacker buddies leave before Stem can reboot. Fisk and Jeffries find Gray, and Stem returns. Gray fights the two villains, leading to a chase where Jeffries tries to shoot Gray with his gun hand, only for Gray to grab his wrist and make Jeffries blow his brains out. Gray returns home where Pamela sees him walking. He tells her the truth but asks her to keep it a secret. Cortez then shows up at the house to ask more questions since she found his wheelchair outside Old Dog. Gray makes up another story that he was going around trying to be a hero but got jumped by a guy who stole his wheelchair. After Cortez leaves, Gray attempts to find Fisk, only to discover that Cortez is following him in her car. Stem points out that she bugged his jacket. After a chase, Gray manages to lose Cortez after causing another car to slam into hers. Gray finds Fisk in his home. Fisk reveals that he is like him too, that he was abandoned by his country after he serving them, and that they instead turns him into a lab rat and experimented on him. Fisk tells Gray that he actually gave him a gift, that he turned him into an upgraded human, making him faster, stronger, and smarter than any human being. Fisk tells Gray that he could kill him without moving if he wanted to, but he actually wants Gray to join him. Fisk then tells Gray that a Shao is just a bonus. Gray quickly becomes emotional and tries to shoot him, and the two engage in a big fight. Both of them can't land a punch as they are both equally fast. Fisk tries to breathe nanobots, but Gray quickly stops him. Stem tells Gray that Fisk is predicting his moves and that he is unable to effectively hit him. Fisk manages to get the upper hand and hit Gray. He prepares to execute him, but Gray taunts Fisk upon learning that Cirque was his brother, bragging about killing him. Angry Fisk tries to hit Gray, but he quickly dodges it and throws Fisk on a glass. Gray kills him by causing him to fall and have glass run through his head. He takes Fisk's phone and hears a message from the one who ordered him to go after Gray, Iran. Gray goes to Iran's lab to confront him, believing he tried to have Gray crippled just to try Stem out on someone. Gray attempts to shoot Iran, but Cortez appears and orders him to throw the gun away. Iran then reveals that he was not behind the murder plot, but it was always Stem who was controlling him. Stem grew to be too intelligent, and he wanted a body of his own, so he manipulated Iran into organizing everything to get Gray's body, even hacking Gray's car to cause the accident. Gray stabs his own hand to prevent himself from hurting anyone, but Stem takes full control of his body and mind to stab Iran in the head. He then takes a gun and aims it at Cortez while she is incapacitated. Gray then yells that he is in control and he shoots himself in the neck to destroy Stem. Gray wakes up in a hospital bed. To his surprise, he finds Asha there, happy that he is awake. It appears as though he woke up from a coma as a result of the car accident. However, this is not real. Gray's mind has broken down, allowing Stem to completely take control of his body and mind, leaving Gray stuck in a fantasy where he can be with Asha again. After taking full control, Stem tells Cortez that Gray is in a better place where he wants to be and that this was his plan all along. Ben Stem says goodbye to her and shoots her dead. He then pulls the knife out of his hand. He tests the blood and smiles. Ben Stem starts to leave as Gray continue to leave in an illusion.